Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devin Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarowick. And not to be outdone, it's the last episode of Brendan Fraser History Month, and we were blessed enough to get the Quizmaster himself. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Will Fournier.
I love this. You made him sound like he's like a bridge troll. Yeah, we've got him. We lured him out with his goat, and he's come here to give us a quiz.
It's good. You burned the right incense and the sage, and everything was done, and the moon was the right level, and I have emerged.
We have summoned him.
I don't love the goat imagery, just because I'm so happy that we get to do this. You guys are my best friends, and the fact that we're able to find these times living all over the world to sit down and record us, it means the world to me.
We've spoken in the past how hard time zone math actually is, and I struggle every time, because I looked at the clock today and I was like, right, so Devon's 14 hours, and then Sejan's 16 hours, and I know I could just do 12 and a bit, but that still doesn't work in my brain, and I just go, probably 7. Cool. See you at 7.
I have 3 world clocks on my iPhone, and that's how I do it.
Nice. I'm confused as to why you're upset about the goat thing, Devin. Is it because we're like the 3 Billy Goats gruff? Is that what it is?
No, it's just because I don't want to believe that it requires a goat's life every time we want to get Will on the podcast.
I mean,
but I'm covered in the blood to prove it.
Yeah.
Just the goat in, like, the first Jurassic Park. That goat.
It's that goat every time.
Fuck that goat.
That goat every time. And we just watch that scene over and over, and then I appear.
Most people don't know this, but that goat does not like black people. So it's worth it.
Oh. Wait. Oh, my God. You've just blown my mind. Goat knowledge.
That's why it's okay that goat dies.
Yeah, fair.
Oh my God! Is that on the internet somewhere, or can we just start this rumor? Like, I just want this to be a rumor.
No, we're gonna ruin that poor goat's career. What are you doing?
That goat is dead.
It frequently bit. No, it would bite its black handler all the time, but not the white one.
Yeah, weird, right?
Crazy,
That's
crazy
insanity. All right, so before
there are animal sacrifices you know of for the same reason, Sejan, to have interest.
Well, I mean, there's obviously there's the chicken that was in Moana, and everybody knows that chicken just was a Nazi.
That chicken was a Nazi. Everybody does know that the Moana chicken was a Nazi. It was a Disney film, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So at that definitely litigious phrase, I'm gonna stop this from going off the rails and try to run the show. So this is gonna be our Doom Patrol episode. I'm super fucking excited to talk about Doom Patrol.
Yes.
But it wouldn't feel like a Brendan Fraser History Month if we didn't have a quiz. So we're going to start off the festivities with a quiz given to us by official Say Report Quizmaster Will, and it's going to be awesome.
And in true British Say Report quiz writing that I've done, you will need pens and paper. There are 10 questions.
Good to go.
I don't know how many points are available. There are some points available for all of them. More points for certain ones. There's even a bonus point available.
Oh my God!
It's a proper quiz today. It's a big quiz.
It's a big quiz.
And the title of the quiz is Brendan Fraser's Numbers and Quotes.
Oh man, I might need 2 napkins. Yeah. Hold on.
Yes, I mean it's a double napkin quiz. We'll call it that.
Oh my God!
I can just unfold the one I have. So that's smart.
Can I just tell you
the cycling?
I have known about this quiz for literally a week, and I feel like there is zero way to prepare for one of these quizzes. That is what I was faced with. So instead, I went and solved the mystery from my own life that came up yesterday while Sejan and I were playing Borderlands 2 on his Twitch channel. Which is Siege versus the World 22. I can't believe that 21 other people already had Siege versus the World, but this is the world he's versing.
Just can't let it go, can you?
I mean, you should try and find them all. I'd like you to meet them all. Like one ring, maybe could buy.
How do you know that I didn't mean that I'm only against World 22? The other 21 are fine.
Are there only 22
Oh,
worlds?
multiverse.
I thought there were 37 dimensions.
That's different.
Yes, of the world, only one of them has that goat, and that's the one Seaton's against.
Hell yeah. Fuck that goat.
But what I did was I had the song in my head yesterday that goes do 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 do. Will, do you know the name of that song?
No, I don't think that is. I mean, it sounds familiar in places, and then the rest of it happened, and I lost where I was. No, I'm sorry. Has this been the main issue with your life for the last day?
No, I mean it's been one of
Theme
them.
song or something, isn't it?
It is the end of a song by Crosby, Stills and Nash. The song is called Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. And after the whole song ends, like a whole song transpires, 5 minutes of a song happens because it's a Crosby, Stills and Nash song, let alone if Young is there. And then they just end it by them all going do 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 do. So
it sounds so much like something else, or like a proper theme song, something like.
I feel like
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Or I was thinking Pup Named Scooby Doo, maybe,
Watch
but it might be Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks ends with do do do. Watch
Yeah, there it is.
out, cause here we come. It's been a while, but we're back in style. So
yeah, that one, not the one where they go to the movies.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Alvin, Simon, Theodore. Doot doot.
Yeah.
Doot doot doot.
Oh God!
All right, I gotta just be honest. I gotta be honest. If we're ever by some blessing of the skies together for Halloween, can we do Devin and the Chipmunks?
Yes, Alvin, you can be. Yes,
you can be Alvin.
Only if Zach dresses up like Dave.
Oh my God, he's such a Dave character.
So Dave.
I mean, I want to believe that we could have 3 different women, but it would also be funny if Dale was Jeanette and the other 2.
Jeanette plus 2.
If she were just the Chipettes. Like
well,
she had little fake heads.
In our group.
What?
Nothing. We're never going to get to this quiz, Devin.
We do need to get to this quiz, because then we got to get to the Doom Patrol. So good. All right, so William, the floor is yours.
Barrel straight in. Question 1.
Oh, here we go.
How many? Oh, so the first 6 questions all have a number as the answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I like
based
that.
on Benny phrase. So, how many total career award wins does Brendan Fraser have? That is in all award categories.
Oh man!
Across all his wonderful stuff. There is a bonus point available.
Oh, okay.
Because 75% of these wins were for the same movie. And a bonus point if you can name that movie. So, question, how many total career award wins does Benny Fraser have? And then, bonus point, which movie won him the most?
Okay. I've got a number here.
I have a number and a movie I am not confident about either.
Are we doing answers now, or are we going through and then doing answers later?
No, we'll come back to the answers.
It's a proper British quiz, Sejan. They want to waste as much time as possible because they don't want to have to look at each other on Christmas.
No, you don't have to talk to your family. That's what quizzes are for. I actually we do a trivia night at the bar I run, and a guy rang up to book for dinner, and I was like, "Oh, you here for trivia?" He's like, "There's also trivia? Fantastic. Book me in. I don't have to talk to my kids." Is why.
Daddy's not coming home tonight. Trivia at the pub.
I'll be back in 2 hours.
I'll be back in trivia.
All right. Back in trivia. It's in its own time unit. Trivia. Question 2. According to IMDb, how many acting credits does Brendan Fraser have? Now, for this question, you're going to get 5 points if you're spot on. And I'm going to decrease by 1 point for every 5 you are away from the right answer.
I like that. I can get behind that.
I love that. I think that's this is why you're the quiz master.
Oh yeah, this is. I mean, my notes are distinguished, and this is one of them. So, all right. Question number 3: how many older brothers does Benny have?
Okay.
All right.
And it's not the number as discussed. You can't just put them down. All right.
All right, so I have to change my answer.
Yeah, sorry. Question number 4. How many citizenships does Benny Fraser hold?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Well, you know, that's why I'm here.
I'm going to go safe with that one.
I mean, that's not how I believe Brendan would want you to go, but that's cool.
What would Frage want you to do?
Oh, don't do that.
We should probably have WWBFD fans.
Well, that's you know,
this month.
next year is the 5th anniversary of Brendan Fraser History Month. That's when you start doing merch. Everyone knows the 5th anniversary is the merch anniversary.
Is that true? I thought we were in our 3rd. Were we in our 4th? Man.
Well, well, if we count Super Kenshi. Super Kenshi was the first ever. So I guess that's a production meeting. I'll write that on the other side of my quiz.
How to make merch for Brendan Fraser.
Or if we're counting Super Kenshi.
Or if we count Super Kenshi, or if we have to wait a whole other year for a band that says WWBFD.
Oh, jeez.
All right. The next answer that I found question was so incredibly specific that I've written it down as to the it was, but I'm going to give you guys leeway on this one as well. But how tall is Brendan Fraser in feet and inches?
Oh, man. Okay.
Because apparently one of the things he's known for is his large athletic frame and his deep resonating voice. So
I think you're fucking seeding the answers. Now I think he's like super tiny and you're just making that shit up.
I think over 3 days I watched 15 episodes of Doom Patrol, and I never realized how impressive his frame was until he was a robot.
It says on IMDb, things he is known for: number 1, deep resonating voice; number 2, athletic frame and stature. So,
I question number 1.
I mean, that is what IMDb thinks, and if they're incorrect, then this whole quiz is just a farce.
Citation IMDb.
Yeah, I'm probably Harvard referencing this.
I hope number 6 is a short answer. I don't have much room.
In what year was Brendan Fraser born?
Nice.
Perfect.
Okay, so that ends the numbers section of this quiz.
Okay.
So we now have 4 quotes by Brendan Fraser where I've taken a word out and I want you to just fill in the blank.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Wait, are these from movies or just things that he said
in life?
Quotes that Brendan Fraser has made about anything and everything, it would appear. I just want you to get into the mindset of BF and just see if you can come up with his answer as well. All right, so quote number 1 from Benny. Maybe my caveman ancestors invented the blank.
What?
Just the phrase was, I don't know, but the initial bit is, maybe my caveman ancestors invented the blank.
Caveman.
I want it to be right, so I'm going to will it into truth. Devin wanted the question answer he had written down to be correct. He believed and he hoped, and he knew that when Will read the answer, he would get full credit.
What is this, the fucking secret? What are we doing?
I'm narrating. I'm just some nobody narrating. I'm trying to stay on brand for the episode.
It sounded very Silver Tongue-esque of like, if I say this from the book, it will be correct. To link back to Inkheart.
It's a lot of Alan Tudyk in our conversations, just off in the side, huh?
Yeah, we do. We should try to get him on the show. I feel like he'd do it.
I think
apparently he'll do anything.
I'm ready when you are.
Ready for our next?
Oh, I'm good to go. Yeah. I'm just noticing that my Sharpie is eking through my McDonald's napkin that I'm writing my answers on. Sorry, keep going.
Way to paint a picture.
Yeah. Good. All right. Question 8. Forget acting. It's all about blank. Forget acting. It's all about blank.
My answer is based on Sejin's philosophy given to Brendan Fraser during last week's episode.
I think I even remember what movie that's from. I'll have to note that here and see if I can figure that out.
I don't. This was just listed in his personal quotes. This wasn't from a movie.
Oh, I still think it was him saying it.
It might also
gives away what movie I think it is.
Is it a movie where he has a speaking part?
Shit, you fucking ruined it.
Oh no, it's not his one silent film, The Artist?
Yeah, I know, he was so good. You know, All right, next one. And this is one of my favorite ones. So, when you throw punches at actors, you stop, you pull it, and it looks like you pulled it. When you throw punches at blank, they're not there, so you can swing through. It looks like you really decked them. So when you throw punches at actors, stop, you pull it, and it looks like you pulled it. When you throw punches at blank, they're not there, so you can swing through. It looks like you really decked them.
Devin was unsure if the answer he had scribbled down would be correct, but it still brought him immense joy. This would not be something he would be throwing out in order to clean his house later.
I'm really interested to see what the answer is now, because that's intriguing.
I was so convinced I wasn't going to know the answers to any of these that I just preemptively wrote bong down for each one, and now I'm actually like crossing that out and putting real answers in.
Putting actual.
Make sure that you cover it completely.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to know.
Because if we see bong, we might take that as an answer.
I have to take your first answer. So. Okay, you ready for your final question of this year's Brendan Fraser Numbers and Quotes quiz?
This is such a good quiz. Thank you, Will.
You are. I've had as much fun as well writing. It's been great. Okay, the final one. I always approach comedy roles pretending that they aren't blank. I always approach comedy roles pretending that they aren't blank.
Watermelons.
Bong.
Good advice. Also good advice.
Oh, delicious.
Right, so ends the quiz.
Oh my god. Pencils down. Pencils
a
back
5-minute
up.
Drink break. And you can all go to the toilet, have a cigarette, and then we'll come back to the answers. So see you guys in 5 minutes.
All right, sounds good.
So for everyone listening to the podcast on, 5 times speed, welcome back to the answers. It's been great having you. All right, so, question number 1, actually, how many total career award wins does the big man have?
All right, Dev, go ahead.
I wrote 4.
Okay.
And Sejin, any advance on 4?
So, yeah. So I wrote down 12, but I put down that 9 of them, 75% you had mentioned, was all for one movie. 9 of them were Razzies for Monkey Bone.
Okay.
Jesus.
And Devin,
my movie was Crash. I just took this one as literally as possible.
You
won 3 for Crash?
Yeah.
You are both equally wrong, because he has 8. You're both 4 wrong in either direction.
Oh, nice.
But you are correct with that 6 of them were for Crash.
Yeah! Bonus points, baby.
I guess the bonus point for even not getting the answer correct is a thing, so 1 for Devin.
1 for Devin. All right, fine.
I apologize. 0 points for Steve.
Hey, I liked my intelligent answer, all right? I am okay.
Dude, that was nice. That was a way to approach it outside the box.
There was not a Razzies on there, so... That's mainly just for Crash won a bunch of awards and he was nearby. So.
Dupes.
And then he got like a 10-year achievement award because he'd been doing stuff for 10 years. I was like, oh, well done.
He like tripped and fell into an Oscar. Yeah.
That was my one. Was like he's definitely gotten some sort of achievement award, and the rest for Crash.
Got a lifestyle. Pretty much. Well, two extras. One I think was a Teen Choice Award for something.
For Journey to the Center of the Earth, actually. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I watched that movie on a plane, and I fell asleep while they were all in peril, and I woke up and everything was fine, and I don't know what happened in between.
Neither do we, and we watched it.
Honestly, nothing, not much.
No. So I was like, oh, everyone seems to get out of this fine. Cool, good story.
Never have to watch this again. Hope there's a sequel with The Rock.
Yeah.
Hope there's a sequel, but he's not in it. What?
Yeah. That's my usual aim, is if The Rock can be involved and you can cut out an earlier actor, perfect. Jumanji.
Be Cool.
Be Cool.
I'll play that game. Oh my God.
Scorpion King. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're talking about movies. Oh, but to be fair, Randy Orton played the Scorpion King 2. So The Rock himself is not immune.
Everybody gets one. That's The Rock. He's just like, I'll show up for one of them.
And then he raises his eyebrow. All right. We have 9 questions.
Question 2. So how many acting credits does Brendan Fraser have?
After you, Sejan.
34. Just pulled a number out of my butt that sounded familiar.
I said
Devin?
48.
48. You guys underestimate this man. He has 70 acting credits.
Holy crap.
All right. Touche.
So the 5 points decreased by 1 every 5 you're off. I'm afraid it's no point.
No points. That's all right.
Oh boy. It's a theme. Good. Okay, so question 3. How many older brothers does he have?
I felt like you were trying to lead us on to something more than 1, so I put 1.
I put 0. I believe he is an only child.
I mean, Sejan's closer by having a number there.
I wrote Popsicle.
He has 3 older brothers.
Damn.
Kind of a big good guy. Again, 0 points. But you tried.
That's good. I didn't know that. See, that's the other nice thing about Brendan Fraser History Month. There's still so much to learn about him.
If you're laughing. All right, question 4. How many citizenships does Benny hold?
Well, I went with the safe answer at 2. Canadian and United States.
Okay. I put Canadian and United States as well, but I put a third answer. Israel.
Israel, but he was there enough filming, so...
I honorary Egyptian citizenship was what I was maybe, but I still stuck with 2.
You were correct to stick with 2. He is Canadian and the US.
Damn.
Maybe Israel on the back of this will offer him. I don't know. I hope they're listening.
And he obviously has citizenship in the Say Report Nation.
Well, yes, of course. And where the flag flies high for Brendan Fraser. All right, question number 5. How tall is he in feet and inches?
I put 6'10".
6'10". Wow.
Yeah, he played basketball before falling ass backwards into acting. I put 6'3".
I mean, 6'3" is eerily close.
He's 3'6".
IMDb, yes, it was backwards. No, he's 10'6". He is listed on IMDb as 6'3" and 3/4. So,
damn.
I mean, I would round that to 6'3" myself, but
I'll allow it.
Specific. It's been allowed.
I mean, I would also like to point out, I said it's because I've been looking at Robot Man. He's not the guy playing Robot Man. I'll have that name actually ready to share when we
I was gonna ask, and I thought I had severely mistaken something in that show. Okay, I'm glad to know I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
That's
no.
all I'm saying.
The first two names that come up at the end of every episode, which like I can see them because I saw them so many times, but I don't want to. I want to make sure I give him the proper credit. The person who's playing Robot Man and the person who's actually playing Mr. Negative, both of them are body doubles. So Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser are basically voice actors.
Okay.
Is the first name executive producer Dick Wolf?
No, because it's a Greg Berlanti
the usual
show.
One I see. Ah, damn. Usually it's Dick Wolf. But, all right. I guess somebody else gets to have a go. Question 6, the final of the numbers question. In what year was the big man born?
I said 1973.
Ooh, I said 1972.
Interesting. I'm going to give Seaton a point for being closer, but it was 1968.
Oh.
Wow.
He came from the
Good for his
moon.
age.
He's only 10 years younger than my mom.
Yeah, I mean, now you'll never forget, because you know that now.
Sorry I outed your birth year, Mom, but people can't do math without a calculator, so your actual age is probably safe.
Yeah, I was thinking, but I haven't got there yet. I'll let you know tomorrow.
Wow, that's
awesome. Right, we move into the complete the quotes section of our...
Yeah,
now we know Teacher put bong down for a few of these, and I'm hoping for question 1, maybe my caveman ancestors invented the bong could be the answer. But what answers have we got for that? My caveman ancestors invented the...
I put burrito.
I put high five.
The weasel.
He has much higher estimates, and he believes maybe my caveman ancestors invented the wheel.
He said weasel.
He didn't say weasel. He said wheel. You can't invent the weasel. They invented themselves in a nursery rhyme.
Is wheel the proper answer?
Wheel is the correct answer. He actually said maybe my caveman has invented the wheel. I don't know.
Oh man. Okay.
I mean, he's got high beliefs for his ancestors.
For the first time in Devin's life, he questioned if making Brendan Fraser the patron saint of the month of May have been a mistake.
Like, I mean, if that's correct, then that is an amazing thing.
Yeah, but any of us could claim that. In all honesty, our ancestors at some point just become a big old mess of...
No, I don't think that Brendan Fraser is saying that as in specifically you can trace my bloodline to the caveman who invented the wheel. I think it's like denying that dinosaurs happened. I read it like, oh, the dinosaurs were put there as a way for the government to control us, though Earth is only 2,000 years old. That's how I hear that.
No, I think he legitimately feels his ancestors were that good that they, if you go back through Genghis Khan, you could basically get to someone who invented the wheel from Brendan Fraser.
I want to watch that movie. I want to watch History of the World, but Brendan Fraser is playing all the roles.
As told by Brendan Fraser. I mean, I'm in.
Genghis Fraser sounds hilarious.
Just marauding around with the Scorpion King. Would he be able to meet himself No, hang on. If he went back to ancient Egypt, could he stop Imhotep before anything happened?
If he didn't attempt to stop Imhotep, the movie would get all of the golden raspberries.
All of them.
100% win.
All past and future golden raspberries go to Brendan Fraser's unnamed History of the World movie that Devin just made up.
It has just wiped out the Mummy trilogy because he solved it at the beginning. But then we've proven with Avengers Endgame that you can just, time's not a thing. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, because if you go to the past, that becomes your present, and the present you traveled from becomes your past. So you can't change that past future. or something that the Hulk said.
Yeah, something the Hulk lazily explains away at the beginning of the film.
Alternate universe theory? That's exactly what he explains.
In such a casual way, man. Whatever.
Well, yeah, because he's fucking Bruce Banner.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, I needed more. I wanted more.
But then, like, the ancient one comes and is like, you are wrong about how you understand time travel. Here's how it really works. I'm the ancient one.
Well, we're not doing this here. We're not doing this here because you're wrong, and I could keep going on why that's wrong, but keep going.
We're in the middle of a quiz. No, no tangents in the quiz. Should be rule number 1.
I think it is.
Yeah, we've not stuck to the rule. I mean, we frequently talk about making rules and then breaking them, so it's fair. We've done that.
That's rule 3. Any rule made is fair to be broken. What's question number 8 to answer?
I think rule 2 is don't talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, that movie sucked.
Question.
I've never seen it.
Right.
I've never seen
You've
it.
not seen Fight Club? Oh, wow, go watch it now.
Brendan Fraser's not in it. Why would I have seen it?
We could remake it with him.
Okay.
So the next one. Forget acting. It's all about blank. What do we got?
Sejin?
Well, I had bongs, but I put looks.
I put having fun.
I mean, yeah, I'd love to give points for both of your positive answers. But no, forget acting. It's all about rock and roll. So many sides to this guy you didn't even know.
Wait a minute. Does he have like a 30-odd foot of grunt-esque band that I'm just unaware of?
I really hope so. But no, he just, forget acting. It's all about rock and roll. Like a tribute to him as a quote.
Did he say it during Airheads?
No, I don't know. It's just listed as personal quotes on IMDb, and that's all you need.
Yeah, I know. I keep wanting to think these are characters in movies, and then I keep remembering you said these were not characters in movies.
Wow, is that your answer sheet? Thanks for sending that across. It's good to show you're working.
My phone is dead and charging. I don't have a picture.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You definitely wrote bong, though.
Yeah. A number of times.
Oh, you've ruined question 10 for me.
Sorry.
Anyway, we might as well do question 9 then. It isn't ruined. When you throw punches at actors, you stop, you pull it, and it looks like you pulled it. When you throw punches at blank, they're not there. You can swing through, and it looks like you really decked them.
Okay,
now,
you see what my real answer is. You see what my real answer is, but I'm really curious because all I wanted to write after you said that was children.
I wrote ghosts.
I feel with last week's episode in mind, you guys should have got this.
I put mummies?
The answer is cartoon characters.
Cartoon characters, nice.
That's good.
When you swing at them, they're not even there, so it's fine.
To be fair, he goes whole hog after Daffy Duck in that movie. That is the truest statement.
And it looks like you really decked him. I mean, he's accurate. He absolutely nails these things.
I thought that it was not related to movies. I thought that he's like, but when you're punching ghosts, they're not really there.
It's just in his everyday life. He's just like, as you do.
When you're out and about on the street and you think, God, I need to punch a ghost, just do it.
It's so cathartic.
Oh, man.
Just turn around a corner, he's just swinging wildly at the air.
I am thoroughly surprised it was not mummies.
Yeah, I was like, some kind of CGI thing would be involved, but it was the cartoon characters he was punching.
Oh, man.
And the final answer. I always approach comedy roles pretending that they aren't blank.
Funny.
Sejin's answer. And did you put funny as well, Devin?
Yeah, of course I put funny.
Oh, it's good. You both got the right answer. Yay.
Yeah, see, look at that.
Sorry, that is the end of the quiz. How do you guys think you've done?
I think I got all of 2 points.
I got 3.5 points.
I mean, I round up as we did with the height thing. So, Devin, you actually got 4.
Woo!
Proud of you.
I didn't know how much the bonus point was.
You did get 2, so I'm going to give you a bonus point for getting your score correct. You now have 3. So it was 4-3 to Devin.
Damn, so close. Oh man, this was
great
awesome.
quizzing, guy. Well quizzed.
Oh, dude, well administered. Thank you so much.
I'm glad we stuck to the point. We stayed on track. We didn't do any weird tangents. Everything was good.
I'll tweet my answer sheet out so that everybody can see it.
Do it after the episode it releases, though. Like, don't do it. Oh, do it now, so then people can wonder, what the heck does that mean?
What the hell is this scroll? This Rosetta Stone.
5-10 from 1971.
Oh, man. Canada, America, Israel?
Israel?
We could play Jeopardy. These are answers, and we could play Jeopardy. Guess the question.
If the only person who could do it is probably the current 26-day champion. He made $2 million tonight. Good for him.
Jeez.
Impressive. I still think he would struggle with some of these.
Well, yeah, because you don't read monotone like Alex Trebek. I think that throws most people off. The emotion you bring, Will.
It's definitely what upsets me.
I would be way more basic and, grow a mustache.
I don't like how much fun I have when you show up, Will.
It needs to be drier.
Like Sorry.
Oh, man, I am sweaty.
We'll try harder in the future.
Oh, man.
All right.
All right, Dev.
So
we got to get to the rest of Brendan Fraser week.
Yeah, we got to finish off strong. But, Will, while we have you, like, one last moment before we say goodbye, is there anything you'd like to add, Brendan Fraser related or otherwise?
I mean, I do love Brendan I'm really just for his portrayal in Scrubs. I will always love him for those moments.
Yeah, next year will be the minor roles. I think it'll be. It's a good. See, I was thinking it was the 4th year, so I was thinking this is a good one. We'll do for the downward action. We'll do the like minor roles where he just shows up for a second, like G.I. Joe.
Oh, that sounds like a fun thing. I told someone that we would do Dudley Do-Right next year because they're like, "How have you not watched Dudley Do-Right for this yet?"
Because it's Dudley Do-Right, but okay.
But no, if we do
Brendan Fraser movies,
Fairly Odd Parents can be involved.
Oh God, who does he play in Fairly Odd Parents?
Turbo Thunder.
He's Turbo Thunder. I should have known that. That was like in my head. Like I know who he played, but why can't I remember right now? He also was in King of the Hill. Oh man, this is totally like. I can't wait to do the minor roles of Brendan Fraser next year.
I think it's a legit one to do.
I think Texas Rising.
Oh,
Series of The Affair. A bunch of weird stuff.
All of his uncredited cameos. That is totally the reason why in Hollywood you have to credit actors now. Because I know that Now and Then would have made $20 million more if people knew Brendan Fraser showed up. His name had some cachet.
Through the roof. Right. Condor as well, which I actually really enjoyed. Condor's a great show.
Love Congo.
Yeah. He's good in that. All right, I will allow you to get on with the rest of the episode. Enjoy the rest of the month.
Well,
love you, Will.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for being our quiz master. Thanks for an awesome quiz. And we hope to have you back again real soon, big guy.
I will continue to write random quizzes. I mean, pick a topic. We'll do a quiz. I'm happy to learn new facts as well.
You pick a topic. We'll do a quiz. That's why you're the quiz master. I didn't make you a mortarboard hat that said quiz master to be giving you topics.
Just for me to just chill out and turn up once in a while. Put some work in. Jeez.
I mean, like, you could use this as a reference on a resume someday.
I would like it to be listed.
I mean, not if you want to get the job, but, you know.
I see that here,
put on
4 years.
Non-acting one.
Oh, goodness. All right. So thank you again, Will. And now we're going to throw it to us to talk about Doom Patrol, probably already in progress. And that is why the ending of the first season of Doom Patrol, hopefully the last season of Doom Patrol, is the greatest disappointment in the entire DC Extended Universe.
Well, this completely contradicts everything that we were talking about. Congratulations, Devin. Man, I want to go back and find other Devin. Where did other Devin go?
You know what? Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second half of the Say Patrol. Or just Say Patrol. It's Say Patrol. You've been looking at the text title for the past 40 minutes. So, welcome to the second half where we, I can't say we get to the Brendan Fraser of it all, because we just blessed you with 39 minutes of a quiz. But future Devin heard past Devin say, probably already in progress, and that made future Devin think, what is the craziest thing I could be in the process of saying?
You know what the craziest thing is? Is that you think that our listeners sit there and just stare at their phone as they listen to this. That they don't look at anything else or do anything else.
I mean, is that not how other people listen to podcasts?
No, Devin.
Wait, are podcasts background noise?
Most people multitask while they listen to podcasts, especially if they're listening to us.
Yeah, that's true. I did. I love that you, Sejin, heard the intense eye contact I was making with the listener. I'm sorry that my outrage threw you off, Siege.
No, it's all right. I am thoroughly surprised considering what the heaps of praise we were about to throw on this thing, to be entirely honest.
Right, that was the point. Is that it was a joke.
Thanks, Devin. I didn't get that.
Good. I'm glad we're all on the same level right now.
Oh,
no, okay.
Man.
So it is Brendan Fraser History Month. You just listened to our beautiful quiz. I will forever remember that he is 6'3", has been in 70 movies as of May 25th, 2019, and that he was born in 1968.
So he's like 6'10", he's partially from Israel, and every answer is bong. That's what I learned.
Yes, Bongdan Fraser. And he's also, it's easy to punch a ghost. You can just go whole hog. The people just heard us this. But because it's Brendan Fraser History Month, and because Doom Patrol just ended, we decided we would dedicate this last episode to talking about Brendan Fraser's latest piece of art, Doom Patrol.
Yeah, we joked at the beginning of this month about how it was like as if the gods had smiled upon us, that show was going to end at just the right moment for us to talk about it. But I legitimately think that somebody out there was actually thinking about this one. After watching this show, there's actually a sliver of hope in my mind that somebody out there has actually been listening to us and they were like, whoa, we have to do this at least ending in May.
It has to end right before the last Monday in May. Yeah, that
makes about as much sense as anything else in this show.
The only thing that would have made this show better for me is if Mr. Nobody at some point said, the guys at the Say Report should love that one.
He practically did. There were moments when he pretty much said that.
Yes, there were moments where I felt like he was talking to me and only me, but I don't want to sound like a crazy person.
This one's for you, Devin. Oh man.
Okay.
Where do we start?
Okay, well before we start, there's three bits of housekeeping that I have to do regarding Doom Patrol. Okay. Thing number 1, Riley Shanahan and Matthew Zuck. Your names have been said. Credit has been paid to you for portraying the physical forms of Robot Man and Captain Larry Traynor.
Yeah, and we should point out that I firmly believe that this comes down to an idea of money saving, because they do a phenomenal job as these characters. But I also don't doubt for a second that an actor like Brendan Fraser or even Matt Bomer would not want to be on set in costume. I bet that if they could have been afforded to be on set, but I think that the reason that we luck out and get names like this in this show is specifically because they do things like cut corners by having really good prosthetic artists play these characters as opposed to having these big name actors that probably cost a lot more. So I legitimately think the only reason you don't see Brendan Fraser and Matt Bomer in those costumes is not because they like refused to, as much as Brendan Fraser jokes about being a diva at the end of Looney Tunes Back in Action. I do not think it would be above him to play this character on set as well. I just think legitimately it's a money thing, you know?
I 100% agree with you, because until I found out about it, I 100% believed that these two would be in those suits and they're on set portraying these characters. And the reason why is because of how often they show up out of costume.
Exactly.
So it's not like they're not around. I think it's legitimately so that they can have maybe 2 units shooting at a time and, you know, keep the costs, you know, like if we can do this in 45 days instead of 90 days, let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So thing number 2 is if you're watching it on DC Universe, which I don't know if both of us did that, but I know that I did. You are able to skip the recaps. Now, when you're sitting there in a binge setting, you might want to do that. You need to listen to the recap for the final episode, the Ezekiel Patrol, because it is actual new content. So it made me go back and watch all of the recaps to see if anything else does that. The recap for the second episode is sort of in the same vein as the recap for the 15th episode, but the actual second episode begins with a recap of the last few seconds.
It's a little bit awkward.
So it's awkward to do it. And that right there is the reason why I'm like, okay, so I don't need to skip these recaps. This is literally, if you haven't been watching and need to know where we were, it's not going to be something different. But I want to make sure that to anyone who hasn't yet watched it, if you are watching it, feel free to skip recaps 2 through 14, but recap 15 is totally worth it. I think Sejan would agree with me.
Yeah. Well, considering what happens in it, how spoilery are we getting? I mean, we're going all out.
And that is what part number 3 is of the housekeeping. There are going to be spoilers for this. I want to discuss every little atom that was on screen for Doom Patrol.
To be fair, the kind of show that this is, no matter how spoilery we get, you're not either A, going to believe us, or B, quite get what we're saying unless you go and see it. So either way, I do not even think we'd be ruining things by spoiling them. But,
I know. I agree. I don't think Edgar Wright would have a problem with any of the things we're going to say, because context is super necessary for this show. But it's just one of those things where if you're one of those people who's adamantly against spoilers, basically I'm talking to past Devin, maybe don't listen to it until you've seen the show. I just want to make sure that we have given people that option to know that.
And I think that's a good place to start. Go see this show.
I literally only watched this because it was Brendan Fraser History Month, and after the first episode, I said, fuck that. I am watching this show for everybody. The cast that they assembled for this series is fucking exceptional.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask, like right off the bat, cast-wise, did you watch the Teen Titans lead-in, the backdoor pilot?
So I decided that I would watch the Teen Titans episode after the series, knowing full well that you watched the Teen Titans beforehand. I thought it would be interesting to have someone with the weight of the 15-episode series then going back to see that backdoor pilot.
Yeah, so how do you feel about things?
That backdoor pilot is terrible in light of what the show became.
Yes, I agree completely. As somebody that saw it first, and it's not fair to either show. It's not fair to Titans, and it's not fair to Doom Patrol. Like I know why they did it, and it's weird because I didn't hate it, right? So it was the first thing that I saw. Didn't have any opinion on the rest of the show yet. Knew what I wanted to see from it, and I got a little bit of it from that episode. So like I didn't hate it, but like you're saying, now knowing what the rest of the show is, looking back on it, it doesn't do the show justice. And as for Titans, it actually slows that show down a little bit because you take an entire episode that is kind of removed from the rest of the story. Like everything that's happening in that show kind of takes a stop for an episode. It's good because it introduces Beast Boy. Weird that it introduces Beast Boy, but also kind of cool, like the way that they bring him in. So like I didn't hate that, but it's just such a, I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't click. Perhaps it's the casting.
Yes. So I will 100% agree. I didn't watch any Titans beforehand. I just did Doom Patrol and then did Titans episode 4 Doom Patrol. Yeah. And 100%, like they had to betray the character of Dick Grayson at the end of the 3rd episode of Titans. This is not even having seen it. But I can't imagine a Dick Grayson that I knew or grew up with who would be like, yeah, no, stay here in this place that I don't feel comfortable with you in. Like, it's such in service of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, from what I just got from the series Titans in episode 4.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's like I said, it's a little weird. It's a little bit of like a, I'm trying to think of the best word for it. Intermission, but not even that. It's almost like a what do you call it? Like a Seder play in the middle of a Greek like marathon of plays. You know what I mean?
Like Lysistrata after the Oedipus Rex trilogy.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's strange because clearly, and we're talking about a series that I don't know how many episodes of Titans you have seen. I've literally only seen the one. It's very clearly important to the overall arc because it's when they have the band together is how that episode ends. Yeah. So I can imagine that immediately following that episode is when that series becomes the series it was meant to be. Like, it feels like 4 episodes of bringing people together.
It's actually a little worse than that. I think that episode 3 is when it starts to become that show, and then all of a sudden it grinds to a halt for an episode, and then it gets back on board on episode 5.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's a dip before the rise. It's like a dip in the middle of the rise. It's awkward. It's really awkward.
It's and what is most awkward, as Steven was saying, is the casting, because Niles Calder, as we meet him in Doom Patrol, the series, I know Niles Calder, right? I've read a comic book before. I understand that character, but Timothy Dalton and just the amazing actor that he is, I was able to be like, all right, so I know where this is probably going, but I kind of trust him right now. Like he
plays the good for all the wrong reasons, bad for all the right reasons. He plays that line extremely well. I mean, like anything that he does, he's in that vein. He's amazing at it. Look at anything he ever did, like Doctor Who, Hot Fuzz. I'm thinking of all these times that he's flipped. Right? He does the flip perfectly.
And that is why the character, I don't even know who the actor that portrays him.
He's from Narcos, I believe. Yeah. Something in that vein.
Something like Bashir is his last name. I can't think of his first name.
He's a great actor. Like I don't want to take anything away from him as an actor. It's not that I feel that. It's just that he doesn't have an understanding of who that character is in the larger picture, because there's like these really awkward moments when he flips and it comes out of nowhere. And it feels really gross and weird in a way where when Timothy Dalton does it with the exact same character, it feels natural, right? It doesn't feel like it's coming out of nowhere. And in a way, I think it's just because when they filmed Doom Patrol, the Titans episode Doom Patrol, I don't think that they quite had a handle on what the show was going to be yet. Jeremy Carver, I think, is the guy's name that is the showrunner for Doom Patrol, and I don't know if he was even involved in that Titans episode. Maybe he was, but it doesn't feel like it, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels.
I don't disagree. I mean, because I was surprised at the end of it that Jeff Johns actually wrote that episode of Titans.
Yeah,
that was the
well. He writes. He has a lot of control on Titans. Jeff Johns specifically. Yeah. So it is weird.
Yeah. But then it's in a way that the way that Calder is portrayed in that first episode, that the Titans episode, where I never believed him. I believed that his evil side was the real Calder, and everything else was a facade. Where
I should mention at this point that I'm not too familiar with Doom Patrol writ large, and Calder is a name that I recognize but had no real connection to. So I wasn't expecting a flip, which is what made it a little bit, perhaps even more awkward for me, because as somebody that watched that before I watched Doom Patrol, I think that, like, in my head, I knew the way that these stories go that he was going to be hiding something, but did I realize that he was going to be, like, terrible? Because in that episode specifically of Titans, there are moments where he comes across as terrible. Like, he's just, you know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. And, like, I can't... Okay, so let's stop talking about that one episode that is not indicative of the series. But I think personal headcanon, it has to be an alternate universe.
Okay.
And I'm completely fine with that, mostly because Beast Boy does not fit in with the Doom Patrol that we come to know and love in the series.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree with that, but I feel a little bit that same way about Cyborg, who ends up kind of becoming their de facto leader for a lot of the show.
Right, but I think that there's a more... Okay, but what I'm saying is we see so much time pass in just the first episode of Doom Patrol.
Proper.
And, yes, Doom Patrol proper. We see so much time pass, and there's not even a nod in that series to the fact that a fourth person was living with them.
Yeah, I was actually kind of looking for it, because as somebody that, again, had watched the other episode first, and there is like a line where they mention that other people come and go, but they never show anybody. They really don't.
Yeah. And especially since the whole thing is this, like, family idea of the series.
Oh, for sure.
It's very odd. Because I'm like, well, I guess, like, Jane doesn't show up until, like, the proper start of the series in 2019, and that's sort of the inciting action that sets everything into motion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so odd that, like, we had another person this age living there, that Cliff sort of was a father figure to.
Or at least a big brother, right?
Yeah. Like, so, it would cheapen everything if it actually existed in the same thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a different Calder, I am completely fine in my mind saying 2 separate universes.
Yeah.
And we can continue. That's why there's the E in DCEU. Because they are acknowledging, we have separate universes.
Yeah, and I'll say, I mean, to take it back into our world, like, I don't think it's a necessary episode to watch, too. So take that for what it's worth. If you haven't seen this show yet, don't feel like you got to go watch Titans in order to like, get into this show. Like, don't worry.
It weirdly betrays some things that matter later on in the series proper.
Yes. Yep.
And there you go.
So series proper, we already talked about him a little bit, but the introduction of Cyborg was something that completely I did not expect for this show. I was not ready for it. It was cool when he showed up, and I should make it clear that I'm not disappointed by him in the show at all. I think it's phenomenal. But based on things like the fact that Cyborg had been in Justice League and that he wasn't on Titans, I was relatively sure that he was just not going to get touched, at least not yet in this DC universe. This is clearly a different universe than anything like the Arrowverse or Black Lightning or anything like that. But for the, I guess, the DC universe that they're creating, like, I just wasn't expecting Cyborg at all in it. And then to have him show up and be such an integral part of this show was weird. And I don't know if that's part of what leads me to kind of feel like he's the one character that just doesn't seem to click at all times for me. I don't know.
So I can 100% agree with he's the one character who doesn't seem to click with you, in the fact that I had to watch the 12th episode twice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I downloaded DC Universe on Wednesday and watched through 12 episodes. With a break in the middle for CJ and I to play Uno and to, like, get food and everything.
Is that Therapy Patrol?
No, the 12th episode is Cyborg Patrol.
Okay.
Therapy Patrol is episode 7.
Oh, okay.
So it was perfect. Like, I did it in that. Like, I was hoping to do 7 and 7. So I'm like, all right, 7 episodes. Therapy is a great place to, like, stop if you're binging.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it's a proper ending in a way that, like, it would be a mid-season finale.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you pick up with episode 8, which is, like, probably my favorite episode of the series. Which that's a hard thing to say, but Danny Patrol means a lot to me. But I came back after we had played Uno and I had eaten and I had done some other things to watch 8 through 12. And I was so tired during 12 because, you know, I was staying up to like try to marathon this show that I'm like, I wonder if it was me and my mental state that made this episode feel so awkward.
Okay.
And the answer is no, because all of the cyborg story just pales in comparison to the stories that go on for Elasti-Girl, Mr. Negative, Robot Man, and Crazy Jane.
Yeah.
It's night and day with how different they are. And the weird thing about Cyborg Patrol is the fact that there are still these great Doom Patrol moments. The things that made me declare to Siegen, this is a Devin Decker show. Mm-hmm. They still happen in that episode. There's a swarm of anthropomorphized butts that, like, make a man take his life because of how, like, frightening the fact that the butts are out is. And it seesaws so quickly. You got whiplash because it goes from a swarm of butts biting people with their vertical mouth holes to Cyborg beating his father half to death.
Yeah, like completely senseless. Yeah.
And it's to a point where it's just like those two things didn't work. The scene with the butts worked, and then you tried to give me like real emotional drama, and I felt nothing. Where like I was in tears for most of this series because like just stuff affecting me and the way that it portrayed the story of the core 4 Doom Patrol members, because Cyborg had never been a member prior to this. And I just it was so odd that I had to watch it again and be like, maybe I was just tired and that's why it didn't hit me at all.
Yeah, I for me, like, and it's that exact episode too is like the perfect example of this. Like, the thing about the series that really resonates with me is the campiness of the entire just landscape of this show, right? Like, everything from the characters to the story to even the way that it's filmed and portrayed and the artistic style. Camp reigns supreme on this show. And so, like, you're right. It's those weird moments where it's no longer campy and it becomes this like serious melodrama with like Cyborg and his dad and his family, where you're just like, that's not where I was emotionally like prepared. You know, I put walls up in certain areas so that I can watch this show and have a good time and still deal with the fact that these are traumatic things that are happening to these characters. Because it's not like trauma doesn't happen to everybody. The whole point of the show is trauma happens to everybody. But for some reason, his trauma is portrayed in a way that is much more hard to watch. You know, like I think of those jokes of just like Oscar bait movies, and it feels like that's what his story is compared to these other ones that are like much more in the vein of what you and I talk about loving. You know, it hits the same notes as like Hellboy did for us for 2019 Hellboy, right? Like, it's good fun with good, like, over-the-top emotional stuff behind it to give it grounding. And that's not what happens with Cyborg. With Cyborg, it's all of that emotional grounding and none of the fun.
Right. And they even try to, like, spin it. Like, it's almost as if they knew this was a really heavy moment. Let's have Mr. Nobody show up and have him reveal in, like, the campiest way possible what his whole plan was for him. But it's just like, nah, I don't really care. Like, yeah, of course. I've been watching the show. I knew that you were fucking lying to him. Like, get past it. Like, I want more. Flex Mentallo was just found, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, right.
I want to get to that. I don't need this.
Yeah.
So, on top of being a weird, like, whiplash moment, it's also how an episode ends. So, like, if I had been watching this week to week, I wouldn't have known how to feel going into that 13th episode.
Yeah, DCU doing something weird here. DC Universe doing something weird. Like we've hit a point with like Netflix and Hulu and stuff where shows drop in their entirety. So they don't always feel like they're built for week to week watching because they're built for binging, right? But then every now and then they do these weird things where like, we're going to release this episode week by week like we used to, like TV used to be. And you watch them that way and you're like, this doesn't fit the week to week model anymore though, because of the way that you're like laying the story out. So like you and I were, I think, smart enough to not watch it week to week, because there's definitely moments throughout this whole show where if we were watching week to week, I would have been pissed. But the fact that I got to choose when I would dip in and out was much more rewarding.
Well, like specifically, the specific moment that sticks to me about that is episode 9 and 10 are basically interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would have been so cool if they allowed you to approach those two episodes that way.
Yeah.
Like where it's like, now choose your own adventure. Do you want to see what's happening with Cyborg and Elasti-Girl? Or do you want to see what's going on inside the underground? Now, let's be honest. Everybody would have watched the underground episode before the Beard Hunter episode. And
I don't know, man. Beard Hunter's pretty fucking goofy. I
love
that.
And it's a great episode. You want to talk about like going from camp to like melodrama, but it actually working. The professor's whole story in that episode is excellent.
Yeah.
So it's also not like they didn't understand how to do real dramatic storytelling or like to give something gravitas. And then you have the camp of a guy who ate freaking drain scum.
Yeah, they're like reaching in to eat beard hair out of the fucking sink. Yeah.
Yeah, like we have this guy, and this is where you're getting that camp that they've come to know. But like we could tell a real emotional story about Niles Calder in 1918 Yukon territory.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other thing that I want to give like a real shout out to is it's so hard to not see the love of old horror in this one. You know, there's a lot of scary shows out now. There's a lot of like trying to do like horror shows as like anthology series and as stories. So like horror TV has made a big comeback in the last 10 years. It's not unusual. But I think this is the first show that I watched that was in that vein, because there's definitely big, like, creepy, scary moments in the show, right? But I think this is the first time I've watched that type of show, and it was the kind of scary story that I like. That 1950s, like over the top. Again, melodrama is a good way of looking at it. The melodramatic, like, scary story. Because I mean, look at your core four. I mean, you're looking at the Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde, the Blob, Frankenstein, right? Like those are the kinds of creature features that they're clearly hearkening back to at the core of these stories. And Calder as this like weird like Victor Frankenstein Van Helsing mashup of like and Alan Quatermain thrown in there for good measure, although that's probably more the Timothy Dalton than anything else. But
it's not. Yeah. You're not wrong. Like that's a
right.
He is the most amalgam of the characters that this series is celebrating.
Yeah, and I think that part of the reason why the Cyborg stuff doesn't hit, but yet you're able to do the Calder stuff and it does, is because as much as the melodrama that you're seeing there versus the melodrama in Cyborg, it's still grounded in the same spine that the rest of the show is with Calder. Whereas with Cyborg, it just feels so far removed from what's going on with the rest of the series.
Right, and I mean, I understand how Niles Calder could get involved with the story of Silas Stone and his son, Victor Stone. It doesn't necessarily mean it works for me. And I think one of the other problems with it is there's this really cool thing about the core four where they're each from a different decade. They're, Rita being from the 50s, Larry from the 60s, Jane from the 70s, and Cliff from the 80s. That's cool because they bring that weird like culture of they become like stunted. I'm trying to think of the it's Arrested Development into the decade when they came to Doom Manor. So it's this really interesting thing that then Cyborg is there and it completely spits in the face of that.
Yeah, I do want to say that, and maybe this is going to be like contradicting what everything I've been saying up to this point. I do think it's important to have Cyborg there for one main reason, though, and that's to show that this group of misfits, that the Doom Patrol, can fit in the larger world in some fashion. The fact that they can step out of their own little world, their own decades, into other decades is an important thing for them to show. I feel like Where the show succeeds with Cyborg is in showing how the Doom Patrol works within his story, as much as I don't know if Cyborg works so much in their story.
That's a very good way of putting it. Because Cyborg being able to get Cliff onto his daughter's Facebook page and everything that brings to the series is good. That's the Doom Patrol interacting with our world.
Right.
But Cyborg having to deal with Cash, the in-universe Tinder, that does not work.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't work at all. Like, that whole thing is very... You use this as the backdrop to make him scared of what Grid is capable of when child mode is off.
It's ham-fisted. It's that's what it is. And we don't, and I don't even mind ham-fisted because there's plenty of that stuff that happens throughout the series. But you're right, like the balance of it with other people works so well. So maybe what it is that it works so well everywhere else in the series that when they try it with him and it doesn't work, it sticks out like a sore thumb. So it's not that it's even necessarily the worst. It's just comparatively, it just pales in comparison to what the rest of the characters do.
Yes, and I'll even say this: I'm not a huge Cyborg fan, just in terms of what he has become on a grander scheme. Like, there's the reason why Cyborg was the character that they chose to buoy against Doom Patrol is because there is a built-in affinity for that character. So they're like, well, if people don't like these friggin' freaks, which I hate to use that word, but that has to be the word that was used in whatever meeting got Cyborg onto the show Doom Patrol.
For sure.
They at least will have Cyborg there.
Yeah, but imagine if they had really leaned into the Beast Boy aspect and had like their Wolfman, right? Like that would have been awesome. I feel like that would have fit so much better.
Right. I don't disagree at all. I think that if it had been Beast Boy, first of all, there's a reason why Beast Boy was a member of the Doom Patrol who went out into the world. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why he's the one who leaves Doom Manor.
Right.
And to replace that with Cyborg, it's almost as if they're like, all right, cool, so we get that you want a Titan on this show. It can't be Beast Boy. People don't like Beast Boy. People like Cyborg. And it's like, yeah, but there's no basis for why Cyborg would be hanging out with them. And they're find a reason. Come on, you got a Robot Man already. And that, I think, is the biggest problem that I have with it, is you have Cyborg there, and it juxtaposes everything that is wrong with Robot Man like that. You don't get to have layers when you have someone who is also robotic, but has all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because it's never brought up that like, oh well, we could probably take your head and put it on a more advanced body. Like, it never comes up, even though if I'm Robot Man and I'm hanging out with Cyborg, there's that part where it's like, do you think I might be able to get some of that action?
At least one or two things. Can I get at least like a gun in my hand or something? Like, give me something.
Could I get like smoother joints?
Yeah.
Because it's out there. It exists.
Right. And I mean, like, and we should talk about like the other characters that they pull in. I mean, you mentioned like Flex Mentallo, and you got close to talking about Danny. Like, Danny is like ridiculous and beautiful and amazing. Like the way that they pull in other characters works so well. So again, when things don't work with Cyborg, it feels weird, because like the fact that we're able to see these other characters and see them work is so good. And I'm very interested to see where they go with Dorothy Spinner, right? That's the last name?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Yeah. I'm very interested to see where they go with her in season 2. If they, I mean, they must, right?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I have been fearful of DC Universe's future literally since the beginning.
Yeah.
And what really broke my heart getting to experience it is it's such a good streaming service. I know that you haven't gotten to do it, but like, it's smooth, It's responsive. I love that skipping the recap and skipping the intro are two separate choices.
Yeah, I have gotten the chance to try it. Did I not talk about this on the show?
Oh,
Maybe
no,
this was just amongst our... All right. I have gotten the chance to try it. I tried it about 4 months ago, and I did not have a great experience with it. But maybe they've gotten their act together in the last 4 months, so I'll just say that.
Okay, so yeah, because it's... And searching for stuff, like, it finds everything. It doesn't just search the title or the show. It searches like, oh, here's everywhere that the word static ever shows up on the app. I'm gonna need more than just static.
Looking for some Static Shock, were you?
Yes, because, oh my god, I love Static Shock. And the fact that it's on DC Universe, that would have been enough for me to get it.
Yeah, right.
But then, like, watching Doom Patrol, it's like, this show is incredible. I really kind of want to watch Swamp Thing if it's going to be at this level. But again, I don't see a reason to start watching Swamp Thing until it's all available.
Yeah. The weekly thing needs to. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot with some of that stuff. Maybe what they need to do is Netflix has gotten in the habit of doing half seasons, putting out part 1 and then part 2 a few months later. And that's worked really well for them. So maybe something more like that. Because imagine if this did end on episode 7, and then like 3 weeks later they dropped the other 7 or something. Like,
I think it would work. I mean, there's a part of me that feels like that was the plan because of how good a finale episode 7 is.
Yeah.
And then because it also that wraps up everything nicely. Getting to know everybody. So then you get to episode 8, you meet Danny the Street, and you see what they mean to the bigger story. And yes, I want more of this. And from the second Danny is introduced, it becomes such an important part of the rest of the series.
Yeah, so weird.
So the fact
cool,
that
so weird.
It's so weird in the Titans episode, and hopefully this is the last I bring it up, that the guy that Dick Grayson assaults sort of for no reason is like, yeah, the old Calder place on Danny Street. Because I'm like, oh, you guys were trying to pack in all the references to Doom Patrol into this episode, but that's weird what you did there.
Yeah, we'll talk about Titans someday, because I got some feelings about that show. I enjoy the hell out of it, but there's definitely some stuff to be talked about there. Right. But yeah, like the way that the show is willing to get weird is phenomenal, and the fact that it works is even better. We should not go too much longer without talking about like Rita and Jane. Like they have not gotten their due yet as two of the main characters.
I don't feel like anyone's really gotten their due character wise. Maybe Robot Man and Cyborg. But like, yes,
Calder. We have gushed about Calder.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I feel bad that we haven't talked about Larry Trainer either.
Oh, for sure. No. Like, let's talk more about
Matt. But yeah, let's talk about Rita, because wonderful. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful. And honestly, the only reason why I'd recommend, I said I wouldn't talk about it, watching the Titans episode. Yeah. Because her story is very much my tragic event in the Deep Congo happens, and then I'm at Doom Manor. We don't see where she was between those two moments.
Yeah.
We see her kill a dude. That's like the extent of it. But most of it is told to us by her.
Yeah, and I gotta say that when the promos and stuff for Doom Patrol are coming out, and like the concept, like, again, kind of new to me as somebody that is aware of these characters but never really invested in them, I was very worried that I was not going to be able to ever really care or connect with Rita for what her character appears to be. But that's the point, as I learned watching the show, is that you are supposed to have these weird feelings at first of not being of like in a lot of ways it's very much lined up that she kind of, more than any of them, gets what she deserves in a weird way. The way that we're introduced to her and what her life used to be before she became the Elasti-Girl is a little it's hard. It's hard to fall in love with her, but man, they do it, right? Like, they do a really good job of it, and quick. Like, I won't say that it didn't take me the whole series to finally fall in love with her. Like, it only took a few episodes and I was finally on board with her.
I know exactly what you mean, because I was so upset when she got mad at the focus puller just because he was missing an arm. I'm like, wow, how am I supposed to care about you? Especially because up to that point, what you experience is she's like, he'll lie to you. Here's what you fucking are now, robot man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's they make her this thing, and then you see that she's more than aware of it after 60 years living with her curse.
Mm-hmm.
That she, and the moment when Mr. Nobody gives him the option to avoid what changed them, and she's like, I was a monster long before this happened to me. But it's also interesting that you bring up she's the only person who kind of got what was coming to her. It is revealed later on that Niles is responsible for all of their accidents.
Sure.
I don't know if he was responsible for hers, because I just don't know how. Like, they show us explicitly how he is responsible for Larry and Jane, and through dialogue, we understand that he wanted to get Cliff into a wreck on the racetrack. And then they went it forward. And it's like, yes, that dock breaks, but how did he know that the water that she absorbs that turns her into...
Yeah, I was going to say part of it is that we're not quite clear on what's exactly happened to her yet, right? Like, I think there's more to learn about that situation for sure.
It felt very much the sorceress from Suicide Squad, where it's like just a person in the wrong place at the wrong time, where there are factors for all the other ones that you can kind of tell in the storytelling after you know, like that sort of, I watch The Usual Suspects every month because I learn something new every time, where it's like once you go back, you can kind of tell that other forces were working behind Larry, Jane, and Cliff.
Yeah, I thought the reveal was going to be Nobody. I thought that was going to be the reveal. So like the spin that it's called her was delightful. Yeah. It's only in terms of like the idea though of her as a person, because like Cliff is the audience surrogate, right? Like he's the guy that we're there behind the whole time, and
Brendan Fraser
so
is the perfect audience surrogate all the time.
Yeah, and so there's definitely a sense that he's not a great person before, but the idea of his character is he is always trying to be better, whereas he's the only one that you really get a sense that no, she wasn't even making an effort to be a good person, and then this thing happened to her, and so seeing somebody change from that and become a better person is such a unique story. I think like it's very rare that you get to see a hero that was legitimately just terrible before there. You know, the closest I can think of in the Marvel universe would be somebody like Jonathan Strange, right? Like he's not great before what happens to him, but even then,
you mean
like
Stephen Strange?
Stephen Strange, sorry. Who's Jonathan Strange?
I don't know. It's a cool name.
I think Jonathan Strange is the name of that magician comedian, right? No.
Yes, that is. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, Jonathan. No, it's Stephen Strange.
No, Stephen Strange. You're right. But Doctor Strange is like the closest thing that I can think of is in terms of what we've gotten from the Marvel universe so far. So like, I don't know. It struck me that how I felt about her and the way that her character is introduced, and the fact that it's purposefully done. It's not an accident that I felt that way and then came around to her. They built her that way. So kudos for that.
The real kudos go out to that. That's not a story that you don't see often. Because you say that like the closest Marvel gets is that, but like that was a big part of Alita Battle Angel. There was a character like that as well, and I feel like they attempt to do the redemption storyline a lot. The reason why it sticks out with Rita Farr, Elasti-Girl, is because it works. Because they're able to like, she's never so despicable that you're like, I'm fucking done with you. There's nothing you can do where I would ever forgive you. What you've done is the worst. And yes, they tell you that she's done even worse than what we saw in the beginning, but it's always tempered by these nice moments of her growing and learning to be a better person.
Yeah.
It's a delicate balancing act to properly tell a story like that. And honestly, the fact that they succeeded means so much to me,
Yeah.
Because I can think of so many movies where I'm like, come on, A Star is Born, to just go with it. I'm like, both of these people are irredeemable for me, so I don't want to sit here for another 2 hours and watch them kill themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of delicate stories to tell that they succeed extremely well in, I think that what they do with Jane is immensely powerful. It runs a real risk of being problematic. It runs a real risk of being campy to the point of offensive. And I don't know if it ever actually gets there. I mean, I'm not in a position to really truly feel that if it does, so I can't tell you. But I think that they do an amazing job taking an age-old trope of the schizophrenic teenage girl, right, with all of the different personalities and everything, and actually telling a really important story of recovery with her. They do it with everybody in the show is this amazingly well told story of recovery, and I think that's part of what I love about Rita is that is as well as told of a recovery story as she is. But I think that where it was maybe the most dangerous has to be Jane, and I think that they toe the line really well.
And where I think what works there and how it works is, I personally, at least the way that the story is told, don't think that she had 64 personalities up until the smacking of the stuff that splintered her and actually gave them power.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that she had Kay, her original form, and when Kay was traumatized, that's when Miranda came along, and then when she tried to deal with it, that's when Jane came along. Right. And Jane is who we see in the asylum when, she's going to get injected with the juice that gives each of her personalities power. But I think that the imbuing of the power to those other personalities that existed within her is what made them so distinct and so different. Mm-hmm. At least in the way that the story is told. So it works where they're like, they establish very early on that there's Kay, there's Jane, and then they reveal that there's this Miranda form. And they never make it seem like she was so completely out of the woods and irredeemable so that it doesn't seem believable that she could get better.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even necessarily the redemption story with her, but so much that particular type of illness is often portrayed terribly, offensively.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very one-to-one, usually how it's portrayed. And Diane Guerrero, I'm a huge fan. I have loved her ever since she showed up on the second season of Superior Donuts. She's a great actress. And her portrayal as Jane is just she's next level as far as I'm concerned. I want to see her go and do more because she's making minuscule changes sometimes to go from one personality to another personality. And it's the delicate,
exciting
to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's the delicate moments between two different versions of her that are really interesting and feel so much more grounded and real than what you would normally see in this type of character, right? Usually, look at something like Split is a good example of it being a little over the top. Now that's by the nature of that character and that story. So, that's a but that is an example to be using in this time and in this day and age that is pretty relevant considering I'm pretty sure it's just a straight up pull from this character. But I think that I think they handle it really, really well. And I just I was impressed, just really thoroughly impressed, as I was with the rest of the show, the way that it handles trauma and it's been cited already as being really groundbreaking, the way that it handles disability. I think Polygon just did a whole write up on how well, not perfectly, there's still issues, but at the same time it's such a step in the right direction that it's hard to be mad at it when it does do kind of some silly things. I think
that's going to be the nature of it. It's we want to have this fun, crazy show, and if we get to change a few minds or open up some eyes, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And
well,
so that's
and the
why
idea
it
that
gets
not
to those
everybody's
moments.
journey is the same.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, sometimes you are going to have these really weird, offensive moments and stereotypical moments that happen in your personal story of that when it happens. But those shouldn't be ignored either, right? Like it's all part of the larger story.
Right.
Yeah.
In a way, showing that like there are these weird moments that could be portrayed or taken as offensive is to show that like, yeah, because not every journey is perfect A to B when you're dealing with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think to not be left out, I think having Matt Bomer come in to play a character that, in addition to having the trauma of his powers and the accident, also dealing with the trauma of growing up in a time when his sexual identity was not well accepted. I think it was really smart of them to get an actor like Matt Bomer to come in to play Trainer, because like Larry Trainer is another character where they could walk a dangerous line, right? The fact that he is secretly gay and in the military at that time, it could very easily be a too campy to be taken seriously. But I think that, again, it's really smart that they bring in somebody like Matt Bomer, who, you know, is an openly gay actor with a family that everybody watches on Instagram and loves, and having him play this character was awesome. Like such a great move.
Right. But also, just in citing that, there is that moment of like almost grown where he is finally ready to come out to his surrogate family, and Cliff just steps all over it. Because he's trying to, well, first of all, he has a rat in his nutrient tank, so all of his actions can be forgiven, but also it's because he's on this weird therapy kick.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to anticipate what everybody's going to say, which is also a really great moment. Like that therapy episode is super important as far as I'm concerned, because yes, it's good to be there and it's good to try to help people with their problems, but you also need to understand people do that in their own ways.
Yes.
Like they all get there, they all end up sharing, and that it strengthens the bonds of the team until it tears them apart. But it's because he it's not super forced right from the beginning. It's just that like, I'm gonna talk, and if you want to talk, that's fine. But here's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and there are some people who say nothing and who contribute nothing there, or what they contribute is not as deep as what someone else contributes. And that's important to like show that therapy is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that this show, again, handles some of its really more dramatic stuff is impressive. It's just impressive.
Yeah. I feel like I felt when I saw Logan in theaters and was like, this is what I want superhero movies to be now. I want them to treat me like I'm intelligent. Like I don't need every little thing explained to me. Like you don't need to stop and like make sure I understand what's going on. If your movie's good enough, I should just be entertained and I can figure that stuff out later.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh gosh. So yeah, God, I mean, there's just so much to talk about here, and I don't know. Is there anything like big bad that you want to just shine a light on?
I mean, like we should at least give a shout out to Tudyk as Mr. Nobody. I mean, we did it for everybody else, and he really does like serve. He's more than serviceable as Mr. Nobody. He is straight up a scene stealer in his moments. Episode 1, when he shows up in that final moment on the bus, completely unexpected to me, and that was amazing. And like, so just shout out to Tudyk, just being awesomely Tudyky as he always is.
Yes. Shout out to the fact that he's basically a Silver Tongue. In addition to the fact that there's a character called Silver Tongue in this show. We threw together this Brendan Fraser History Month real sloppily. Like it was really. No, I'm being honest. Like this was not one where
all what we did.
No, I'm gonna be honest. Like we knew that we were going to end with Doom Patrol. We were both like, the last episode ends right before the last Monday. That's the end. What are we going to watch before that? And basically we threw out 3 movies, and those are the movies we watched. And the fact that it really proves why Brendan Fraser has a month.
Even if it is just in our own heads, but yes.
No. Well, I mean, I tried to say that, like, why does John Malkovich have a door? Like, why does Brendan Fraser have a History Month? I'm glad you asked, John Cusack. It's because, in a weird way, the movies that we just picked on a whim had a through line or shared thematics that were awesome.
Yeah.
Like that we start with Inkheart, where like there are silver tongues who can bring literally anything to life. And then we hit a movie like Looney Tunes Back in Action, where it's a world where our cartoon icons live in the world amongst us. And then during the center of the earth, he is reading the book as he walks through the setting of the book. Yeah. And then you come here, and yes, it's not Brendan Fraser. It is Mr. Nobody who is narrating, and whatever he narrates happens.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's in a way that, like, this show could not exist in the way that this show is if Deadpool hadn't happened and been a hit. And I love that. I
will say that, like, Berlanti and the crew there would not be able to have pushed some of the ideas in this for sure. Yeah. And
I'm so happy that we didn't get some Doom Patrol series or show that kind of limited or didn't allow them to go to the levels that these stories need to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man finally being portrayed in a live action format, and the way that they made him happen and handled some of the weirder stuff about his character is excellent. But specifically what's excellent is the fact that he becomes a second, like a tertiary background character who is just out there doing stuff and they are not involved. But if they need a news report, why don't we bring on Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man and how his dinosaur head attacked him? Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of beautiful world building in this, and there is this, it's a really cool through line going from Inkheart to Doom Patrol. And I've talked about there being a steady decline in, like, the storytelling and everything, but for it to shoot right back up, way past even what our predictions would be, to end on just how good Doom Patrol was magnificent. Yeah, and there's a giant cockroach making out with a giant rat.
It happens, and it's story significant.
Yeah, it's not that's the thing, and I think that's what I'm talking about. Like, that swarm of butts, I thought that it was the thing that was out of place the first time I watched the episode, and then on the second watch, I'm like, no, what's out of place is Cyborg beating his father half to death.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels like so diametrically opposed. And stupidly, in my stupor, I was like, oh man, the butts were the problem. Even though it's been a swarm of butts this whole series. They go inside a donkey. Willoughby freaking Kipling shows up. And he's played by the guy who stabbed the dude 7 times in The Practice and said that it wasn't murder. One of my favorite episodes of The Practice.
Oh my God.
I'm like, how do I know this guy? And I'm going through his IMDb and I'm like, he's the guy from The Practice episode that made me want to be a lawyer, even though I'm 33 years old.
Follow your dreams, Dave.
Yeah, maybe. It seems like a lot of work.
Narrated into existence.
Well, Devin decided that day he would become a lawyer. I can't. I'm like afraid that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, no, we've willed too much into existence with this own show. We have found ourselves becoming silver tongues.
Yeah, it's like that's the other thing that this month has taught us, and in a lot of ways, you're not wrong. Like, watching this series, watching Doom Patrol, there was so much like, is this for us? Do they know?
Yeah.
Is this us? This Is Us? That's a show too. I don't really watch it. So I'm going to ask just the one question that I have.
Okay.
And maybe you can help it. Joshua is the guy in charge of the, like, Doom Patrol retirement home that they eventually go to.
Yeah.
Where
they go to like Golden Age Doom Patrol. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's episode 6 that they go there. Doom Patrol being the title of the episode, and Niles says to him, "You have a power. You know what you have to do." Is that power ever revealed?
Yeah. The whole thing is a lie.
But the whole thing is a lie that is portrayed by Mentallo, which I love that he eventually showed up. Because not Mentallo, Mento, just Mento, the Fresh Maker. Because
now I gotta go back and rewatch it because I was under the impression that Joshua had been creating that safe space for them.
The safe space is specifically created by former Doom Patrol member, the guy who dated Rita, Mentallo.
Okay.
Like that, and that was all, not Mentallo. Mentallo is Flex Mentallo. Mento, who is another member of the Doom Patrol. When they released Doom Patrol toys as part of the Justice League universe, like inlay, it was the Doom Patrol set was Mr. Negative, Elasti-Girl, Robot Man, and Mento. So like he's one of the core members of Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
How he showed up and how he was like utilized in that episode was awesome. But that moment being like, you have your power, you know what you have to do. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's ever revealed.
Now I remember. To be fair, I'm reading about this, so I can't cite specifics in the episode.
That's fine.
But his whole thing is that he can do like kinetic energy like stuff, like move things and push things with his mind. So like kinetic energy blasts is the way that it's worded on Wikipedia.
Okay. And that's in the episode? Because I can't...
I can't cite it in the episode, so maybe this is just something that we just know from the comics.
From the character in the comics, and that's why it's used. Because in that episode, we see Arena, who is basically fire and ice slammed into one character. And then you have Reina, who, like, is basically Magneto, is what it felt like.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I would give you that.
So I don't remember seeing what his power was.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where maybe you had caught it while you were watching it. I wanted to check.
I honestly, and we talked about this. I watched this in like 2 nights overnight as well. So like you're talking about episode 6 for a 14 episode series that got
15. It's 15 episodes.
Along.
You watched all 15. I know you did because you cited something that occurred in the last episode.
Is it 15? For some reason, I keep thinking. Oh, I probably think of 14 to 15 as one episode, to be honest. But
yeah, the penultimate patrol going into Ezekiel Patrol definitely feels like one big story.
Yeah.
Which again did not lean to the fact that I had to wait 24 hours to watch it.
Yeah.
And 9 a.m. Eastern is such a weird time to drop a television show.
Yeah, that is a little odd. Where does that line up with midnight?
It's no. I honestly
Hawaii.
couldn't tell you.
Past that?
It definitely passed Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because Hawaii is only 6 hours ahead. So, I don't know. Maybe it was weird. It was especially because it doesn't switch to minutes until it's like 1 hour to go. So I looked at it and it said that it would be available in 16 hours. And I did the math and I'm like, well, 16 hours would be 8:32. So does that 16 hours mean 8 o'clock or does it mean 9 o'clock?
And even then.
And I was all ready to watch it at 8 o'clock. And no, I put it on. It's like in 59 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so some of the stuff that happens early on in that series is a blur to me because of how crazy it goes after that break in the middle after 7.
After Therapy Patrol is really when it feels like a different series, which is why I wonder if there was a time where they're like, we're going to release this as 2 parts, as you mentioned. God, the Ant Farm is handled so well. Yeah, watch the show. That's the big thing. Anything else before we wrap up the 4th? Well, all right, so can we like establish this right now? This is our 3rd observed Brendan Fraser History Month, but it has existed for 4 years.
Yep.
Will next year only be the 4th? anniversary, or will it be the 5th?
We'll say 4th anniversary. I feel like if it's going to be the 5th, we got to plan something, and I'm not ready for that yet.
All right, cool. I'm fine. But I wanted to say
it should age with us.
I agree. I think that's fine. But I have always been counting from the time that I typed up the original Brendan Fraser History Month quiz and sent it to you via snail mail in a basically Unabomber-esque envelope. I remember you telling the story of, I get an envelope in my mailbox. There's no return address. It's block lettering. And I didn't know what it was. And it just,
good times.
Like, it's good. And it has inspired something magical. Just looking back at the last 4 weeks, it really felt magical. I felt so good. Obviously, with, like, again, more behind the curtain stuff. We recorded with Will before Memorial Day happened. I will be honest with you. I was at a barbecue yesterday, and I was just so energized to tell people that I'm working currently on Brendan Fraser History Month and the origins of it, and how, he's in over 70 movies, so it's very easy to, like, give him a month.
Yeah, man.
So it was nice. And I thank you for this. Will, I thank you for coming on and giving a quiz. Thank you very much to Doom Patrol for existing and for all the work that everybody does. Again, Riley Shanahan and Matthew Zuck, fantastic job portraying. And what's really impressive is they definitely have to match to Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser. I can't imagine any production that would go the other way for that.
Yeah.
So, because there are beautiful moments where it is Brendan Fraser walking around in Robot Man's clothes, or where suddenly Larry Traynor is Matt Bomer. And their physicality is so on point for those characters that, again, I had no idea that it wasn't them in the prosthetics.
Yeah. So definite shout out for that.
Like, just care to this type of stuff. And further proof, I mean, Sejin's been saying it for a while, and I hadn't ever had the experience with something that was a good adaptation for the DCEU. Like, a real good adaptation. Like, just because I enjoyed Justice League doesn't mean that I'm like, it's a good movie.
I'm glad, though. I'm glad, and I agree. Like, I have, like if this is what they're going to continue to put out on the Universe app, I'm very excited.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll see from there. But anything else to add before I wrap it up? This supersized episode.
No. Man, is Frankenstein Agent of Shade? Is that Marvel or is that DC?
Agent of Shade. That is Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because man, this whole time I was just like, I feel like that's Marvel, but fuck me if I don't want him to show up. But it had that kind of feel to it.
It had Tales to Astonish. That's what this felt like.
Yeah.
Like, to the fact that, like, there's part of me that wishes Marvel would do a Tales to Astonish thing.
Yeah.
Because of just how good those stories are. Like,
no, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it is it made me want all these other things. Like, it left me wanting not just more Doom Patrol, but just more everything.
Yeah, more stuff like this. So if you want to share with Sejin the other things that a show like Doom Patrol wants you to have, feel free to find him on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you want... And I was gonna say if you want to gush to Devin about this show, but I mean he'll probably gush right along with you, so it wouldn't really be that annoying. So don't bother. But you can find him at Devin D. Decker.
I don't need more reasons to cry about this show. So until next time, you and me, we gotta stick together. I don't remember the next lyric. Here's to the damned, to the lost and forgotten. It's hard to get high when you're living on the bottom. We're here. Take us away to that ending that we all know and love. Oh, 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 oh.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Sejin Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.